Today we're going to go over a few things that I feel that people need to do midwinter, and this is if you're storing your camper outside without a cover or you don't have anything over top. There's a few things you need to look at midsummer to make sure that some things are clear, and we'll get through that right now. And what you want to do is, now I'm in actually at the end of January, and we've had a lot of freezing and thawing. We've had a couple of snowfalls. Here in Kentucky we don't have a lot of snow, but when we get one, it piles on here and then it's usually gone in a couple of days. But one thing you really want to look at is get up here midwinter, and when you have a nice sunny day like I had today and it's just above freezing, so I don't have to worry about ice or anything. So you want to get up here and check your gutter. And I'm up here on a ladder here, and you can just get up on the roof, which is probably what I'm going to do on the other side. But I have pine trees, so if you have pine trees or anything that has debris, you want to check this gutter. And right now it's full of all kinds of garbage. You can see the pine needles. You want to clear all this stuff out, because what you don't want to happen is you don't want your water to come back down here the next time stuff thaws and then freezes in this gutter and cracks it or pulls your awning away. So you want to get up here and clear that gutter out on both sides. That's one of the main things you want to do if you're storing outside. You can see it all piles up in here. I'm just going to pull it out, get all that out of here. And you probably want to do this, I probably should have done it after Christmas and then done it again at least once or twice throughout the year, because it got built up a little more than it should have. And while I'm up here, in my case I have lithium batteries that I've pulled out for the winter, the extreme part of the winter. But if you left your lead acid batteries in and you're using this solar panel to kind of charge those batteries throughout the winter, you want to make sure that this is clear so it can actually generate some power for you. If you have a big ice or snow event, you want to try to pull that off and let that thing, that way you're still getting some charge on those batteries. In my case, like I say, I'm disconnected, so we don't have to worry about that. Now, if you have a Forest River product, you probably have a gutter system kind of similar to this. At the very end, it's really critical that you get this last little bit cleared out, because you definitely want this water to fill up in here and spill out over the edges and get away from your camper. So that's the most critical part, is to get all this debris out of here. Now, while you're up here, I do have a section about inspecting your roof, but last year I didn't do the patches that I should have done, and as I'm up here I can actually see there's a spot here where I need to put some new sealant on here. So that's something I'm going to have to keep an eye on, and I'm going to have to get some sealant to cover that here pretty soon. Another thing you want to look at is if you have any corrosion that's starting to creep up on you. These stabilizer jacks are notorious to rust out. They're not very good quality. A lot of people replace them after 2 or 3 years. I'm hoping I can get at least another year out of these before I replace mine as well. As you can see, quite a bit of rust building up on that. So basically I use a little WD-40, and it's not so much for lubricant, but it's just to displace that water. I'll put it on these little rust spots. Just make sure the mechanism is in good shape for the most part. Little surface rust is okay. Eventually you'll have to either repaint them or get another set. See, this one's holding up a little better over on this side, but I'm going to go ahead and spray the mechanisms down. Another thing you want to do is on your tongue jack here, you want to, if there's any rust building up on this is something you can't replace easily, so you definitely want to have a good coating of something on that. This is something you probably wanted to do before you start storing it in the winter, but you definitely want to catch it again mid-winter. And then lastly, if you have a weight distribution hitch and it connects and rubs and does some crazy stuff, you'll have to end up hitting a few spots on it as well, because it'll kind of do a little corrosion. You can see a little bit here on this side here. Like I say, hit that a little bit. One of the things when you're storing outside and you've already done your winterization, you may get a little concerned. You come in here, and after a couple of freezing thawing cycles, you'll see you'll see antifreeze kind of sprayed out of your sink. This kind of made me nervous my first year, but it's not, that doesn't bother me now because I kind of know it's just that antifreeze expanding a little bit, so it sprays a little bit out when it's actually thawing, freezing or thawing. Also, you'll see it sometimes in your bathroom. Like I say, we've cleaned this up several times, and it'll still kind of dribble out of that end of that the shower head. And same thing with your commode. You might have a little bit more in there than normal. Another thing you want to check on here is you want to see that you have liquid on top of your seal. And you can see mine has gone back down, so I'm going to have to add a little bit of liquid on top of there. And maybe at some point I might have to re-lube my seal because it's like draining out there. Another thing I noticed, we had a snowstorm, and we only had a couple inches, but during that snowstorm we had a really cold snap. It got down below negative, I think it was -2 at one point. And this expansion caused the actual fuel tank, the tank flush. Well, let's see, which one is it? Yeah, it's the antifreeze lines were the one that actually doesn't show it here now, but I had some red antifreeze that squirted out here, and it was actually down on the snow on the ground, and that made me a little bit nervous again. But again, I had to have the first year, no problems. It's just like I say, it's that antifreeze expanding and contracting. So nothing to worry about if you've done a good proper job on your winterization, but just to be aware you might see a little bit of that pinkness on the ground. So in summarizing, you may use a cover, and there's a different pros and cons with using a cover. In my area where the dampness is so much, a cover doesn't do me a lot of good. And actually I'd rather not have a cover because I can keep a better eye on the camper through the winter. But this is a personal preference. Some people like putting a cover on theirs. The advantages of having a cover is that you prevent the fade. And what you do, I get this sun on this side all the time, on this far side, and I'm getting a dull look, so I'm gonna have to do some waxing on this side, so this side gets the sun all the time. So if I had a cover, I wouldn't have to worry about that. But it's just a personal preference, and in my case, if you leave it outside, these are some of the things I recommend you should do at midwinter, just to kind of make sure it's pushing through the winter, and it'll be waiting for you when spring gets here. So that's about all I have on this video. And if you do something else to maintain your camper through the winter when you're stored outside, leave it in the comments, and we'll see you again on another one of these videos.